Well, good morning, everybody. I want to take the time this morning to have each of you, teachers and students alike, think about your future by thinking about your past. Let me explain. I want to call on the fairy tale of Hansel and Gretel. Hopefully many of you know of that, but in brief summary, it's a tale about a brother and sister who are left to fend for themselves in the woods by their evil stepmother, who has left them there hopefully to die, and they outwit her by leaving a trail of breadcrumbs behind them to find their way home. From the tale comes the idea of a trail of breadcrumbs as a metaphor for helping one find one's way. What I want to have us do this morning is talk about what I believe is a set of breadcrumbs each of you have that can guide you through life. But these breadcrumbs lie in the midst of past experiences that collectively lead us in a direction that we may not know. Each of you has a fascinating journey ahead of you that can go in a number of directions. And like so many, you can look ahead and see what can come. You can try to imagine what can be, where you can go, what you can accomplish, and what looks and feels right. But wouldn't it be better if we charted our paths, our next steps, based upon what we know about ourselves, from what we've learned from studying our pasts? What's so interesting, and what I ask each of you to find, are these nuggets of clues. And they're subtle, often dismissed, but collectively make a great whole and offer a way to really chart your course in life. And they are your breadcrumbs. So how do you find them? Where are they? You do so through self-reflection. You look back and ask yourself, what has occurred in my life that really struck me? Certainly there'll be specific events that come to mind, but don't lose sight of the really small clues that are there. Think about how you were stimulated by what you saw, how your sense of smell affected you emotionally, what the many sounds in all its different forms took in the past, and what you've done physically with all the potential your body has to offer. When you start thinking about this and writing down what you've found, you'll see patterns emerge. It's quite fascinating. Messages and clues start to surface. It's almost like you are both the main suspect in a detective show and also the detective at the same time. You need to take heed of what you find. Your mind, your body, and your very being are telling you something. They are giving you deeply felt reactions to aspects of your life, reactions that weren't planned, organized, or even expected. But through their recollection, they are revealing your innate nature. You are getting glimpses at the heart of who you are and what makes you tick. If you do this, if you explore this catalog of items that make up your life, you will find that an inner compass begins to emerge. You'll have these breadcrumbs of your past come together to serve as the markers of the pathways of your future. Honestly, it's a pretty fascinating process to put yourself through. And it's ongoing. We all need to do this throughout our lives as we grow and learn and discover and experience even more of life's bounty and challenges. It's not a test or something you turn in. It's about you getting to know you. It should come as no surprise that I've spent some time doing this. So let me give you some of my examples. Both small and may seem insignificant, and large. Examples of items that struck me over the course of my life. Some may seem trivial and easily dismissed, but doing so misses the point. We recall our past because it meant something. I remember the feeling of independence and pride I experienced as a sixth grader when I ate at our town's local deli lunch counter all by myself. I remember resting on the side of the Appalachian Trail with my dad and together listening to the peaceful and calming sound of rain as it fell on the trees way off in the distant forest. I remember working on a farm one summer in Vermont. The smell of a hayfield, the itch of a hay bale in my forearms, and the teamwork and camaraderie that all comes from baling hay stay with me today. As I hammered in the last shingle, I remember the deep and peaceful feeling of exhaustion as I felt as I watched the sunset from the roof of a small building I had built. I remember seeing my mom sitting on the side of her bed crying because she had just heard the news of the death of Martin Luther King. I remember trying to comfort her, but also being in awe of a man whose life was so important it could affect a person he didn't even know. I remember learning in 7th grade how to do a Roman numeral outline to organize information. In one class, I felt the jumble of information in my mind become organized in a way I'd never experienced before. I remember when I cut grass as a young boy, being excited about the chance to take a broad expanse of lawn and follow any pattern I wanted to creatively get it all cut. And I remember the deep satisfaction of seeing it all done. I remember the tears I cried when I experienced for my first time as an athlete that giving it your all does not mean you will win. I remember the fascination of learning in a single drawing class in high school about vanishing point and how it works to create perspective in the world around you. I remember the awe I felt watching my first multimedia production that synchronized 5 slide projectors of color photographs with the classical music of Vivaldi's Four Seasons. I remember my excitement as a middle schooler, seeing a tiny hummingbird hovering up close before me. I remember the dizzying and incredible experience when I held my first child, and my second, and my third. I remember my visceral, deeply felt reaction of defiance when being told by my college counselor that getting into the college I wanted was just not achievable. I remember the enjoyment I felt in meeting new and truly interesting people when I worked as a roughneck on an oil rig in Texas after high school. I remember the sorrow I felt as a 9-year-old when I was saying goodbye to my big brother as he climbed down the fire escape to run away from home. I remember time and again being more interested in the success of others in an ultramarathon race than in my own performance. I remember the continual uplifting effect that music has had in my life for as far back as I can remember, listening to the Beatles while my dad and brothers and I played Scrabble on the living room floor, going to a memorable Rolling Stone concert, the details of which I can't share with you here. I remember hearing one of my brothers as part of the St. Thomas Choir School, singing in the Lessons and Carol service. And I remember playing bluegrass guitar with another brother at one of his gigs at a bar in Vail, Colorado. Color in architecture, in clothing, in paintings, in photos, in nature has always drawn me in and evoked strong emotions. I remember my immediate desire to reach out and help an older man and his wife as they struggled to carry their suitcases up a set of stairs in a crowded train station while everyone passed them by. I remember running at night several miles outside of a town in the country, into the countryside somewhere in South Dakota, and then stopping to lie down and stare up at the sky, overflowing with hundreds and hundreds of stars, leaving me feeling part of something magnificent and in awe of the universe. And finally, I remember, without notice, feeling my eyes well up with tears as I stood at the Arlington Cemetery and stared out across all the white gravestones, great gravestone crosses of our nation's veterans. So what have I gleaned from my own reflections, my own looking back, my own process? What do my trail of breadcrumbs tell me? Music of all kinds is really important to me, for it inspires, calms, energizes, and evokes lots of emotions and memories. Design and color and their creative combination inspire me, and is really important to have as part of my life. Looking out for others and helping is an innate part of who I am. Nature, being in and amongst it for all its sounds, smells, inhabitants, and beauty, calms me, inspires me, makes me feel part of something greater. Working with my hands and being able to create something is deeply satisfying. The need to have challenges before me that seem unattainable is a real motivator, and the list goes on. And this all comes from just looking back and reflecting on where I've been and what I've experienced. The deciphering is a fascinating process. Each of you have your own very, very personal parts of your life that have struck you. As you can see, they can be as simple as the elation over identifying a hummingbird, or as deep as my Martin Luther King's example. But each of what I've shared struck and stuck all these years later. And there's a reason for that. Each meant something to me, and by so doing left me a clue for me to consider as I reflected on my future. So, look ahead by looking behind. Consider keeping your own personal things that struck me journal. Not a lengthy diary, just occurrences from the past and from your day-to-day life that inspired you, stirred you, provoked you, drew you in, or made a lasting impression. Your entries will provide you with the breadcrumbs you need to chart your future and find deeply felt happiness. It will be a gift to yourself, from yourself, for yourself, and your life will be all the better for it. Thank you.